welcome back to Madison's Books. I'm Madison, and today I'll be doing a review on Memento by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Sadly, the only way you could get this novella was to pre-order their new book, Aurora Rising, and then go into this form and submit your receipt of proof of purchase of Aurora Rising, and then within 4 to 6 weeks they would send Memento to your house. And I got this 6 weeks after it was released, and I'm so happy I got this book. I read it and it was so amazing. I was blown away by this novella. If you haven't read the Illuminae Files series yet, I'll be going into a lot of spoilers for what happened in the beginning part of Illuminae, since Memento takes place a little bit before the Copernicus attack. So in case you don't know what the Illuminae Files trilogy is, I'll just give you a little bit of background information. The entire conflict in this series is between Bitech and the UTA, and it's just an intergalactic turf war between these two competing companies. And so the Illuminae Files starts off on this planet in the Krenza system, and they're attacked by the Bitech fleet, which is the enemy or the villain in the series. So the colonies on this planet that's being attacked, they send out a distress signal into space for like, Mayday, Mayday, help, we're under attack. The battle carrier Alexander, which is part of the UTA, they're part of the good guys, or good guys, I guess you would say. They fly over to the Krenza system and try to save the colony from the Bitech attack. In this process of trying to save the colony, battle carrier Alexander gets hit by nuclear missiles that damages the entire ship. A bunch of things got messed up on the Alexander, including the ship's onboard AI system, Aiden. And so Aiden, he's the main defense analytics network on the battle carrier Alexander. It basically decides a bunch of things. Later in the series, it gets messed up and everything. It doesn't turn out so well for everyone on board the Copernicus. In the Krenza attack, Aiden was hurt by the nuclear missiles, or a few days later, or maybe weeks. Battle carrier Alexander shoots down one of the UTA's other ships, the Copernicus, and no one knows why Aiden did this. And a bunch of people are killed because of Aiden's decisions, and it's just a whole mess comes up. So in Illuminae, many people aboard the Copernicus fell ill with this new disease that no one knows what it is and why it's spreading so fast. Many of the main characters, they talk about how Aiden made these decisions to shoot down Copernicus on its own. Normally Aiden has to have clearance to do that, and they have to have permission from the head general to carry out these very serious decisions. And so everyone wants to know why Aiden decided to shoot down the Copernicus. That's kind of from the beginning of the Illuminae Files trilogy. The main problem that's going on is that no one knows why Aiden decided to shoot down the Copernicus with a bunch of people from the UTA on board. This novella, Memento, goes very in-depth into that situation. 6 weeks before the attack on Krenza, and then even after that, once Aiden is malfunctioning and it decides to shoot down the Copernicus. This novella basically explains why Aiden did this and its reasoning behind the attack of Copernicus. This novella starts with a very brand new perspective that we have not heard from before at all in this series, and her name is Olivia Klein. She's working to help make Aiden, the artificial intelligence network on the battle carrier Alexander, more human-like and improve its knowledge. This novella gives us a perspective of what Aiden was like before the attack of Copernicus and before it started malfunctioning. Aiden starts to take notice in Olivia, and he starts to talk to her a lot, or it, since technically Aiden doesn't have a gender and it's a machine, so we should call it by it. Aiden starts to take notice in Olivia, and it starts to talk to her more often about different topics, about a bunch of her personal problems, and about her dad, and about her romantic interest in this novella, Major Wolf. One day when Olivia is working on Aiden, Aiden's talking to Olivia. Olivia brings up the Trolley Problem. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's where this train or trolley is on the track to run over 5 people that are tied to the train tracks, unless you, the person that's not on the tracks, decide to pull a lever to make the train switch directions and only kill 1 person. Olivia introduces this problem to Aiden. Aiden is confused by this at first, and he starts to say things like, oh, murder isn't acceptable, murder in no state of mind can be right or justified at all. This is one of the pages in the book where it describes the trolley problem, and Aiden says like, oh, this is a very simple problem. Of course, you would kill the 1 person to save the 5. Then Aiden starts asking Olivia if she was the person that had to pull the lever, if she wanted to sacrifice her father or her romantic interest, Major Wolf, in order to save the other 5 people. And Olivia says like, oh, this is just hypothetical. Don't think about it so seriously. It's just a complete hypothetical situation and it doesn't really matter. But then Aiden starts to think about this more and more, like sacrificing a certain amount of people for the greater good of the rest of the world. And I'm just looking at one of the pages in this novella. Olivia Klein is talking to Aiden and she tells him, all right, let's say 5 UTA Marines were on the first track and General Torrance, which is the head of command for the UTA, was on the second track. Which option do you choose? Aiden, being confused by this, he says, neither. Aiden cannot undertake action that would harm members of its crew. So at this point, Aiden is just thinking about saving everyone that's on his crew, and he's programmed to save or not to harm anyone from the UTA. But then Olivia tells Aiden that it's just a hypothetical situation and he has to choose something. Aiden then says, logic dictates Aiden kill the Marines. Torrance is a more vital member of Alexander's crew. So General Torrance, he's very high up in the ladder in the UTA. In Aiden's mind, it thinks that since General Torrance is such an important character, he will save General Torrance, but then sacrifice the other 5 Marines, which are just soldiers. He thinks that the 1 person, General Torrance, is more important than the other 5 Marines. And then, of course, Olivia says that, but you're more important than General Torrance. So if you were on the track, would you save yourself or kill those 5 people? Aiden, of course, he says, oh, I can't kill myself. I'm not living, and so a non-living thing cannot die. And then Aiden says that he cannot conceptualize the word I. So he doesn't see itself as a person or living thing. There are a bunch of these Latin words that are used throughout this novella. This one sentence is codigo era sum, that translates to I think, therefore I am. Since Aiden can think, Olivia persuades him that since he can think, he is thus alive. This saying, codigo era sum, makes Aiden think more about the word I. It starts to realize that since it can think, that he is alive. He starts to ponder on the word I and what it means. He says, I think, I? Interesting. So that's one of the parts in this that starts Aiden's downward spiral into becoming an insane murderer. Then, of course, the attack of Corenza, where battle carrier Alexander and Aiden is injured by the nuclear missiles. Aiden malfunctions. All these malfunctions that are happening to Aiden cause him to do crazy things. A bunch of people on Alexander, they start to take notice of Aiden's malfunctions and saying that he's not acting normally. General Torrance and all of the other high-ranking people in the UTA, they want to shut Aiden down because he's a safety risk. Major Wolf, Olivia Klein's love interest, and his team of Marines go down to Aiden's corps to investigate what's going on and what's wrong with Aiden. But in that process, they end up dying for a mysterious reason. No one knows why. Or a couple hours after Major Wolf and his team die, Olivia gets an email from Aiden, and Aiden sends her an image of the trolley problem, which is on this page. Just sends her an image of the trolley problem. Going on in the background of all of this, and so since Aiden thinks that he's a vital part to the battle carrier Alexander, the UTA fleets will not survive if it is turned off, he decided to sacrifice those 5 Marines for the sake of the greater good. And so that goes back to the trolley problem, where Aiden decides to kill those few people to save all the rest of the people in the UTA. His logic behind this is saying that it views itself as one of the most important parts about the UTA. It is the UTA's safety net, basically, and it helps the UTA make a bunch of important decisions about defense. Since Aiden put himself above other people, Aiden starts to see this self-importance and selfishness in himself in putting itself above others. And so, of course, since Major Wolf dies, Olivia is so mad at Aiden, and she figures out that Aiden killed Major Wolf and his team on purpose. Olivia decides to take the responsibility of turning Aiden off into her own hands, but she decides to go into this area to mess up Aiden's code so it's not useful anymore. These UTA people, they storm into the room because she's not cooperating, and she ends up being shot and killed on the spot because she didn't believe in what Aiden was doing, and nobody else was taking control of Aiden, so she felt like she had to do it herself, but then she was killed. Then the very last page of the novella is Aiden sending an email to Olivia's father, and he's dead. And he's telling Olivia's father that Olivia's dead, and I caused her death and the death of many others, but it was all for the importance of the greater good. Aiden notices that there are diseases coming up on Copernicus, which is another one of the UTA's ships. Aiden notices that Baytech dreadnoughts are closing in on them, and their water supplies are running out. There are going to be a bunch of evacuations from the Copernicus shuttles because of all the sickness going around. They're already on such low water supply that if they introduce so many more people onto battle carrier Alexander that have to be put in quarantine, he sees that that is a risk for everyone on board Alexander. In this letter that he writes to Olivia's father, he says, "The Phobos pathogens aboard the Copernicus is growing more critical by the day, and something may have to be done about that, something justifiable. So it can be right to kill one person to save 5, or kill 1,000 to save 1,001. Your daughter taught me that lesson, priest. I will remember it well." At this point, we know why Aiden decided to shoot the Copernicus. It was because he saw that as an act of saving everyone else, but killing this small portion of people. It's insane. It is revealed that Memento, the title of this novella, stands in Latin for the word remember. Remember, memento, is the last word used in this novella. Olivia Klein basically taught him that it's okay to kill a bunch of people, even if it means just saving that many people plus a couple more. Yeah, that's insane. I don't know if that made a lot of sense, but kind of just trying to recap everything just for the people that never got a chance to read it. Memento is so good. It's so sad that not every Illuminae Files fan has a chance to read this novella. I got to receive Memento, but a lot of people didn't. It's just very sad. It is amazing. It's so good. It explains everything about Aiden's backstory that we need to know and his motives about everything. It's amazingly written. It's perfect in my opinion. And I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, obviously, because it's just so good. Like, I read the Illuminae Files trilogy back in October of last year. This completely brought me back to that world. So I know I didn't really go into a lot of the review things about this. I just wanted to recap it and say kind of the general plot of the novella, just so that if anyone hasn't read it, and they probably won't ever get the chance to read it, they could at least listen to my recap and get the overall gist of the novella. It's amazing, and I hope this all made sense. I just have no words to say about this. It's so good. 5 out of 5 stars, like I said, and you can check out my short review on Goodreads about it. It's just so interesting that one person can really change the fate of the entire universe. And this is a person that's not a big part of the story, but she has such a big impact on the entire trilogy. So I hope you liked my first book review. I can't wait to make more of these. Of course, this was my first review, but this was just blurting out everything that I had to say about this. Yeah, again, if you want to see a short review, just go to my Goodreads and you can read that. It's not that long. See you next time.